All right, second video of the day, the Battle of Midway. The book talks about several battles, and all of them are important. In the Pacific Theater, I don't think there's any battle that can be seen as more important than the Battle of Midway. The Battle of Midway is the turning point battle in the Pacific Theater. After the U.S. enters the war, after Pearl Harbor, and manages somehow, miraculously, to hold on to our aircraft carriers after the Battle of Pearl Harbor, we fight the Battle of Coral Sea. One of our aircraft carriers is badly damaged in that battle and has to be towed back to Pearl Harbor to be put back together. Important though, the Japanese thought they had sunk it, and so they think we are down to only 2 aircraft carriers. A critical factor in their decision to attack at the Battle of Midway. The Battle of Pearl Harbor was supposed to destroy our strength as a Navy. The Battle of Midway is a second attempt to get rid of our aircraft carriers and make us a wasted force in the Pacific Ocean. The Japanese Navy has a brilliant, I'm gonna say brilliant, battle strategy to draw the U.S. Navy into a battle that they can't win. It's a 2-part plan. One part of it has a huge naval force going north, way north, toward Alaska and the Aleutian Islands. And when the attack on the Aleutian Islands happens, our Pacific Fleet is supposed to follow that Japanese fleet north. An entire other Japanese force, a larger fleet, is waiting behind so that they can chase us north and catch us between the 2 fleets. They're supposed to completely be able to wipe us out and at the same time grab the strategically important island of Midway, which is named Midway because it's halfway across the Pacific Ocean, halfway between San Francisco and Tokyo. We occupied that island back in 1867. It was uninhabited, but its position in the ocean was so critical that we put a coaling station there for our Navy back in the 1800s and a naval base there, and we'd held on to it ever since. And the Japanese wanted it for exactly the same reason. They could put an Air Force base on it and dock their ships there and use it as a launching pad to take islands closer to us, including the islands of Hawaii. And so they wanted Midway, and they wanted to get rid of our aircraft carriers. So this battle plan, brilliantly put together, is designed to knock us out of the war in the Pacific Theater. And it very well could have done that. In fact, I hasten to say it probably would have done that if we had not already known their battle plan. We knew everything they were going to do. We knew that it was targeted on Midway. We knew that they were sending a fleet to Alaska and that was a feint to draw us out. They knew we knew they were coming from Midway with a larger fleet, and we were ready for them. Now, how did we know? We knew because we had broken their code. Now, military messages are sent in a numeric code. Critical pieces like the names of commanders and the names of ships and islands are given code names. And then that message is translated into a numeric code using a code book, a very complex system. It's not just a substitution cipher. It's a very complicated thing. But American code breakers in Honolulu had been listening in to Japanese radio transmissions and had deciphered the majority, some people think as much as 80 or 85% of the Japanese code system. So they were able to figure out that an attack was coming. They were able to figure out that an important island was going to be attacked as the second part of this battle strategy. They knew that the Aleutian Islands were a target, but a secondary one. And Admiral Nimitz managed to trick the Japanese into telling him which island was the focal point, that it was going to be Midway, by sending out fake messages from Midway until the code breakers heard the Japanese repeat the fake messages. And when they got that, they knew which island it was. the attack on the Aleutian Islands happened. The fleet left port, not to go chase the fleet north, but to wait for the second fleet to come toward Midway. We didn't know where they were. They didn't know where we were. We sent out planes in a search pattern looking for their fleet. If we could find their fleet before they found our fleet, our planes could do damage to them. The planes that first found the fleet were Catalinas. They were not really modern war planes, but they tried anyway. They were all shot down and all their pilots killed. But because we now knew the position of the fleet, we were able to send in planes from the aircraft carriers we contained, including the heavily crippled aircraft carrier from the Coral Sea, which was sent into battle with only one of its elevators working and 4 of its 6 engines working, because we needed one more aircraft carrier in the fight. The battle, several things went incredibly our way in the battle. When U.S. planes found the Japanese fleet, they were in the middle of switching over from torpedoes to bombs because they suddenly from bombs to torpedoes because they suddenly realized the U.S. fleet was nearby and they wanted to be able to sink the fleet. But they were in the middle of changing their planes from having bombs to having torpedoes, and so their planes were unable to get into the air and were caught on deck. The Japanese were unable to. They were in the process of gassing those planes up and were unable to clear the gas lines of highly explosive airplane fuel. So when U.S. bombs hit the decks of the Japanese aircraft carriers, huge explosions rocked the ships. By the time the battle was over, sheer dumb luck, the U.S. finding their fleet before they found our fleet, us having broken their code, the sheer luck of the timing of when the planes got there made it so that the U.S. had sunk 4 of their aircraft carriers. 1 U.S. aircraft carrier was sunk in this battle, but the Japanese offensive capability was crippled. They still had tremendous defensive capability. They had thousands of islands around the Pacific Ocean, each one of them fortified and well stocked with materials. It was going to be hard to capture any one of those islands and take it back. But their ability to capture more islands, their offensive capability, was completely crippled after the Battle of Midway. And it is the turning point in the Pacific theater. From that point forward, Japan is moving backward. The battles that come after this, what we refer to as the island hopping campaign, where we have to launch an amphibious attack at islands held by the Japanese, that island hopping campaign is only possible because Japan can't take more islands. We know that once we grab one of those islands, we can hang on to it, put an Air Force base there, and use it as a launching pad for the next island hopping battle. So because the Battle of Midway happens and we cripple the Japanese offensive capability, we are able eventually to win the war in the Pacific. So Battle of Midway, and this is the most important point, the turning point battle in the Pacific theater. Pearl Harbor starts it all. The Battle of the Coral Sea stops the Japanese from being able to attack Australia, but Midway turns the war around. Midway is the critical battle. Now, there are lots of battles and lots of horrific battles, probably more bigger and on a larger scale battles in the fight to get to Japan and stop the war in the Pacific that come after Midway. Midway's fairly early in the whole thing. But for sheer importance, Midway tops them all. We'll talk again soon.